I reckon we've got like half an hour.
Okay. Yeah, I think we're just in golden hour. What do we do about that? Is that a problem?
Hello,
friends. Welcome to our channel.
Hello, I'm Sarah.
I'm Paige.
And this is Two Pearls in a Pod. We are meeting today on the lands of the Wurundjeri people of the Woollen Nation. We are really grateful to be here. And we have something a little bit different today.
Yeah, so this is not like one of our usual episodes. And to be honest, we're probably, we will be linking it into knitting, but the focus isn't going to be knitting, and it's going to be more about sort of fashion and how that links into our knitting and our knitting style, and how it's potentially going to inform some of our further future projects and thought some of you guys might be interested as well.
Yeah. So I think this is very much born from listening to a podcast that we both really enjoy. And they've been talking, and it's kind of a fashion themed podcast. And I think their analysis of different aspects of fashion, I think, has prompted us both to think about this a lot and how that influences what we wear, but also what we make to wear.
Totally. And I don't know, I was talking about this with Sarah, and since sort of analysing the things that I like to wear, what I feel good in and what I like to wear, I do feel like now this greater insight has started to change even a little bit the choices I'm making when it comes to yarn, patterns I'm choosing, sort of clothing that I'm tending to sort of, direct myself towards. So I thought, yeah, it would be interesting to share, and I wonder, if you guys might potentially notice that change on the channel as well. So
yeah. And hopefully people get something out of this as well as like a prompt to think about more considered knits. And this is something that we spend so much of our time investing in, to really be validated and really be confident in what we're making, and know that it's something that we're going to love and is going to suit us, and we're going to get a lot of wear out of long term.
100%. As much as I know Sarah talks about this all the time, we've only got a finite amount of things that we can knit or that we can make. And it makes me really, I always think it's a bit dramatic, but it is kind of sad. You're not going to be able to make everything that you love or that you see on other people. And how often we see something on someone else and then we try it ourselves and then realize we're not actually getting the wear out of it that we wanted, and frog it and make it into something else. And that's all well and good, but it would be kind of nice to know or think about those things in a bit more of a considered way before embarking on that mission. I already have a very full closet, and you guys would know from our acquisition videos or hauls that we do purchase a lot of yarn as well. And for me, one of my aims is to try and use it as a tool to try and pull that back a little bit as well.
Oh, I like that. So we've made some notes, because in the interest of not making this too chatty, and we've got a little bit of structure, we've got some notes we're going to refer to. The first one, which we've already skipped, is what we're wearing.
Oh yes, true.
So we're on a roll. You go first.
All right. So what I'm wearing a t-shirt that I just bought from Woollen, which is an Australian brand, and then this is my slipover, Sile slipover. The pattern's by Petite Knit, and it's knitted in Bendigo Woollen Mills Alpine, which is discontinued, but it's like a tweedy sort of yarn. Someone commented on one of the previous videos actually that they couldn't find Woodlands, which is something else I've knitted in a similar sort of yarn, or been knitting in a similar sort of yarn. So both of them are limited edition, they don't have them, but they do now and again come out with a new tweedy variant. So do keep your eyes out, keep your eyes peeled rather.
Yeah, they've always got an equivalent, because there is an eternal need for a tweedy yarn.
Totally. It sells really well. That's why we went absolutely nuts last time they released Woodland. So
yeah.
What are you wearing? I want to hear more about this, because I complimented Sarah as soon as she walked in.
And I was like, thanks.
And she was very quiet about it.
I was a bit coy, because I wanted to talk about it here.
As soon as she said, we need to talk about what we're wearing, in my brain I went, oh, it's definitely something she's made and I want to know more.
So I have been trying to work through some of my fabric stash, and so this is a finished sewn object.
Love it.
This is called the Armistice Blouse. It's a pattern, it's a reproduction pattern of a sewing pattern that was available around 1918 at the time of the armistice. So I just really love that I can wear the same kind of shirt that women were wearing 100 years ago.
That's so cool.
Following essentially the same pattern, to make a really beautiful kind of square neck, lacy top. So yeah,
It looks really great. I actually thought you had bought it from like Suzanne or something. I know, that's like Sarah's biggest compliment ever.
Actually, like, you could not give me higher praise.
No, truly, like, do you see the vibe with the eyelets and stuff and the structure? I think
that's why I like Suzanne, is because a lot of their things are like my style, which, you know.
Yeah, your taste.
So yeah, this is a pattern that you can still buy online, like it's that they've kind of modernized it, but it's a really flattering fit. And
it's beautiful.
Love it.
Nailed it. Very nice.
All right, so the things that we're going to talk about today.
Yes, so the way that we're going to structure this is we're firstly going to be talking about colour analysis. I don't know if this is as much of a thing internationally as much as we've been talking about it in Australia.
It's just gripped me.
But it's gripped me. It's all over my TikTok and Instagram, and even talked about on the podcast that I listen to. So we're going to be talking a bit more about that. And then we're also going to be talking about Alison Bornstein's 3-word method and sort of how that relates to our style and knitting.
Yeah. So for the uninitiated, the colour analysis applies a seasonal colour palette to a person based on their characteristics, namely skin tone, eye colour and hair colour. And it's generally, there's the seasons, and then within the seasons there's 3 like subsets.
Yeah.
Is that right?
That's right. And I always get confused.
They're different for each season.
Yeah, there's like soft, like for example, if you're looking at autumn, there's soft autumn, true autumn, deep autumn. But then with winter, there are like 3 other variations of winter. And I don't remember what they are for each of them actually. But if you look up online, you'll be able to find it.
You can find them. And then you can get like your colour analysis done in person, but the cheap way is to do it online using an app or ChatGPT, which is what I did. And so we thought we would talk about kind of ours, and then kind of how that's like what that has, the implications that has for us. The cheap method is to use ChatGPT, and so that's what I did. I ran the where you choose, so you use the eyedropper tool to get the hex color, and like I'm sure there's lots of ways online that will tell you like the steps that you should take, but I ran it over. I chose like 4 or 5 different pictures because I wanted like to average it out, because I didn't trust.
Don't want to trust it just on one random picture.
Well, I mean, like especially things like hair color and eye, like they vary depending on which part you choose. So I ran it about 5 times. I got once it said I was an autumn, but then the other 4 times it said I was a warm spring, it said. And then like when I Googled that, like image search that, the kind of the famous people that they use.
That was classic.
They're like poster children for warm spring. I was like,
I see that.
Yeah. So that was mine. And then actually I really liked that. There was someone in one of our previous episodes, she left a comment and she said she plays a fun game where she tries to like attribute a colour
you said that to me,
to like other knitting YouTubers, which it sounds like a really fun game, but she told me that I was a warm spring. So I think her name was like True Summer Knits, or whoever she was. You're right.
So I did the ChatGPT thing as well, and I used an app because similarly I have trust issues. Also, again, like I feel like, and when you use the eyedropper on your face, like different parts of my face have different colours. I know that's a weird thing. Like my forehead is more tanned than like my mid face, for instance. I'm a deep autumn, which I used ChatGPT, and I also use an app to discover this because, as I was just saying before, you can pick different parts of your face, and so like my forehead is more tan than my mid face, and so I wanted to make sure that I got the more accurate
result you wanted.
Analysis. Anyway, so when I got deep autumn, I was sort of like, is this just because I'm brown?
Is this just like I'm being like, oh, you're brown.
You're brown, so you're automatically deep autumn.
Yeah. And
like equally, like all the poster people for deep autumn are also, not all of them, but a lot of them are also brown. I don't hate it. Like Zendaya is a deep autumn, and anything to be closer to Zendaya is a good thing in my eyes. But it is something that got me thinking a little bit about it.
I worried about this when I was doing it. I'm like, how like white centric is this thing? Like I'm looking at all the like warm springs, and they're all like very white redheads, and like, is this just putting us into like
categories
and being like,
brunette.
oh, you're this skin color, therefore you should wear these colors. Like, it's just, I don't know.
I did
I'm sure
really
there's some
think about
commentary
that,
out there.
especially because when I was reading more about it, because I was getting, the two things that I was getting was warm autumn, which in some analyses there's no warm, it's like soft autumn, true autumn, deep autumn, but some people substitute warm autumn for true autumn, and so I was getting a combination of warm autumn and deep autumn. And then when you look at sort of what differentiates the two, often they talk about contrast between like your hair color and your skin color, and those kind of things just made it not like red flaggy, but also like that's actually not talking about your undertone of skin, that's actually just talking about
skin color,
like how dark or fair you are. So I don't know, I had some questions about that, but I think ultimately I'm based on like doing a lot more of sort of using more tools, I'm classified a deep autumn, and we'll just run with that.
Sure. So I guess the next question is, I mean, I feel like, how do you feel about that? Looking at the recommended colours for a deep autumn, which I'm guessing is lots of like warm, like browns, reds, plums.
Yeah, so the colours are pretty much just any dark colour that's warm toned. So no crisp whites, but you can do like oat or creams. Like
no pastels.
Like deep, rich colours is sort of the vibe. So like plums, deep dark greens, navies, just anything dark essentially.
How do you feel about this?
So interesting that you say this, Sarah, because I feel like when we edit this video, I'll pop on the screen like a Google image of the colours recommended versus the colours that you should go with. And it's really funny if you guys have been watching this channel for a while. It is so funny to look at because the colours that it says worst colours are like everything that I knit. It's like all the pastels, worst colours. And then all the other colours are these rich, deep colours. But the funny thing is, I think it does reflect probably what looks best on me, but it's not always going to be what I like to wear. And I'm happy to accept that. Like for instance, even if I look at sort of like my makeup today, I'm wearing like a slightly more warm tone lip. And I feel like if you cut down this part of me, it suits, and it probably probably less contrast, but the blue is probably a little bit more stark against me. But I don't think, when I say how do I feel about it and do I think it's going to impact me, it's already impacted me. I went and got my nails done. Look what color I got. Like so everyone knows I get like, they look more red on camera, but they're like definitely more of like a maroon color. I think it's definitely impacted on things like makeup and nails and accessories. And I think it is impacting my sort of fashion choices, not in a way that I feel restricted, but in a positive way. Like for instance, I'm that person who, if I'm buying a top and I can't decide between two colors, I'll often get both colors. Whereas now, if I've got the two colors, I lean and get the one that's probably more in keeping with my color analysis.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah,
makes sense.
And no black was the other thing.
So I feel like no black is a rule for all of them though. I
feel like it is. There anyone allowed to wear black?
I don't think so.
Allowed,
well, like recommended, but also like, how could you pass up black?
I think someone had said on this like fashion podcast we listened to as well that like you just keep it away from your face. Like you can just wear black jeans or whatever with like a, you know, whatever's closest to your face, because it's built based on your complexion, your eye color, your hair color.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah.
Can
I tell you how I feel like I have a very particular palette.
Yeah. You do, which is why I thought it was funny, because the palette of Deep Autumn is Sarah's palette. Like the whole thing is like literally like your colours. Yeah,
mustards, dark greens, like some navies.
It's hilarious.
And you know what is all my palette? It's like there's quite a lot of pastels.
So funny.
Which I'm not a pastel girl.
I know you're not.
Okay, so I specifically will probably only buy something if it is green, blue, yellow, or brown.
Yeah.
Like, and then obviously neutrals, but like
that checks out.
This is my rule. Like, I will not look at something unless it's one of those colors, by and large. The way I came to this is, I think the way I came to it is, I spend a lot of time like hiking, camping, whatever. And when I realized like quite a while ago that when I am outdoors, I want to not stand out with the environment. Like,
That's
I want
so
to blend.
funny.
I want to blend in with the environment. Like, I don't want to wear a fluoro orange jacket when I'm outdoors. I want to wear a khaki, or I want to wear a brown. I want to wear nature colours in nature. So from that, and then I also didn't want to own too many clothes. So I want my outdoor clothes to be able to be interchangeable with my day-to-day city clothes or whatever. So my like earthy natural colour palette of greens and browns then kind of became integrated into my like day-to-day wardrobe. And so now I'm kind of shopping specifically to match nature.
It's kind of like you've created a capsule wardrobe vibe.
Yeah.
Based on the fact that you hike a lot.
Yeah.
And
like I obviously have a lot of clothes which are not hiking appropriate, but that's kind of the origin.
Yeah. Has that always been the case? Have you always been a hiker, or did you get to a point where you started leaning in that direction?
I mean, I've always been a hiker, but I think it took me a few years to realize that I felt that was like how I wanted to dress.
Yeah.
So like I have owned like bright, colourful outdoor clothes because that's a lot of outdoor clothes.
Yeah.
But I realized I was gravitating towards that. But it's like, actually, I just want to wear this jumper normally, or like this jacket suits anytime.
Yeah, right. That's interesting, because I think if I think about sort of what led me to sort of gravitate more towards pastels, I think it's because when I was younger, I think my fashion or taste has been mostly influenced by my mum.
Mm-hmm.
And sort of like, you know, I used to be dressed when I was tiny by my mum most of the time, and she'd often comment about how like the lighter, brighter or more colourful sort of colours would sort of stand out a bit more, or that they look quote unquote better on me than the darker colours. And that might also be cultural as well. My family's originally Sri Lankan, and I think in Melbourne everyone wears lots of dark colours and black. Like, we're known as a city where everyone wears black, and I think that, like, for my mum, she thought that was really random. And thought that, you know, colours are more flattering, and so I used to be dressed in colours a lot more. Or if I asked Mum which one should I get, she'd say whatever the colour was that was brighter.
Yeah,
it would never be the black dress, for instance. And I think just over time I've gravitated towards those colours more over time.
Actually, I would reiterate that. My mum is like the poster child for coastal grammar. Like, she is like full Diane Keaton, and I think I have definitely adopted some of that. She wears a lot of blue and a lot of navy, and I also probably do that. But I think also as well, I gravitate these colours because I think they suit me. Like, it's like, here's me being like, oh, I'm taking inspiration from nature, but also this is what I think probably suits me as well. So it's a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Similarly, like, I used to do a lot of ballet, and we would always be dressed in pastel colours. And I used to always be told, as again, like, you know, Australia and Melbourne's pretty multicultural, but in my class there weren't that many people who weren't Caucasian. And so often they would comment and say things like, oh, like the pastel blue looks really good on your complexion or whatever. And so just gradually over time, I think
like reinforces it.
I've just sort of internalized all of this, and I don't think it's a negative thing. Like, I think I've just enjoyed it more and feel most comfortable in it. So.
So I feel like being told that I'm a warm spring is kind of irrelevant because I have a really clear colour palette anyway. It reinforces my decision making because a lot of those colours are in there. But it's probably more helpful from a makeup point of view. I mean, I don't buy a lot of makeup. I'm not very good at makeup, but it will help me kind of probably more choose makeup than clothes. Well,
I have been wearing, this is really specific, but I've been wearing more eyeliner to work generally, like, just because, I don't know, I feel like my eyes stand out a bit more, and like I enjoy wearing eyeliner. And I used to always just do like black, and I've actually gone and like bought like a brown gel liner, and I looked at photos online of like people with, you know how everyone says like you should go for a brown liner rather than a black liner because it's like less harsh. And I kind of thought, like, I don't know how much that's true, but when I look at side-by-side images, I actually do see it now. And like today, for instance, I use like brown tones and smudge them out, and I'm really enjoying it. And similarly, my nails. But I also brought, this isn't something I've knitted, but like a jumper that's like in a chocolatey brown. This is actually shameless merch, which is the
fitting. So the podcast that we have both been inspired by is a shameless podcast.
And I've got one of their merchandise.
Is this new?
It is new. It's a new
really
one.
soft?
It's so soft. I have the light grey as well, but this year they came out with this chocolatey brown.
Design.
And like, if I'm being honest, I think it does suit me the most. Like, it is a vibe. So I think I will be embracing it a bit more. And it's actually made me more excited because I bought more sort of cream coloured yarns, like the Snefnook, for instance. Like, I'm really excited to knit and wear that, and I don't know, it makes me feel a bit more wintry at the moment as well, so cute. I've been enjoying it.
Nice. I brought something like, just as kind of to reinforce, is like, I think this will help me like in my knitting going forward to avoid colours as well. So this is a cardigan, which is a light grey. It's very cool. Definitely doesn't, I don't think, suit me, like colour wise.
I think that there are just like more flattering ones out there.
Exactly, but this is still a beautiful jumper.
Yeah.
So what I do is I only wear this with a collared shirt now.
Oh,
because the white breaks up.
It does break it up.
Like, if I...
That's a really good idea.
So this is a way that I don't have to be like, well, I can't ever wear grey ever again, because this is a beautiful 100% alpaca jumper that I love. I'm just a bit more mindful about how I wear it now.
Yeah, for sure.
I won't buy any more grey.
I was going to say, I'm really interested to know the thoughts of the viewers. Like, have you guys done it yourself, and sort of has it impacted on you guys and sort of how you've been dressing or what you've been gravitating towards?
I really enjoy seeing, there are definitely, I'd say, some podcasters who lean into their colour palette that suits them, and it's really nice seeing them make really conscientious choices.
Yeah.
Like Florence.
Yeah, for sure. Like it's a strong brand.
Or like Amy from Knee Knits.
Yeah.
She does the same. She does really well. So it's nice to see how people's are making those sort of conscientious things to look nice. Not that that's the point. Like, if you love a colour that doesn't suit you, doesn't mean you shouldn't wear it.
Yeah, no, whatever.
But yeah. That was
step one.
That was step one. So now that we have our colours, we have both also been talking about the Alison Bornstein 3-word method.
I have a hair in my mouth. Hang on. I got it.
We are a race against the light here, but we'll make it work.
We will make it work. So, step 2, Alison Bornstein's 3-word method. How this is different is it's less around colour and more about sort of style, cut, those sorts of things, I suppose.
Bigger picture, like how you dress.
Exactly. So, I guess, firstly, for those who don't know what this is, the 3-word method basically uses 3 words, as it sounds, to sort of emulate what your style is as a whole, and it's supposed to provide some sort of structure and clarity for when you're choosing how to dress, without being too prescriptive or restricting. So it's supposed to have 3 words that makes you feel sort of comfortable but still falls in line with like what you like to wear. And so I've written some notes just because I always forget what the actual 3 words are meant to be.
I didn't know there was 3 words. I didn't know that they were meant to have specific indicators or specific guides. I initially just thought it was like, pick 3 random words, and like if they vibe with you, then good. But they've actually got kind of an intention behind each of them,
which I think is really nice because it makes it much easier to implement rather than having like three unachievable words.
True. You're right. Yeah.
So the first word is supposed to be like a baseline word, which is meant to emulate what your current style is. The second word is meant to be an aspirational word of sort of the kind of style that you want in your wardrobe or you want to emulate. And then the third word is an emotional word, which is meant to reflect how you like to feel when you're wearing clothes. And I think it's really smart because aspirational and emotional can kind of link together with what you want. And baseline kind of makes it more achievable.
Yeah. So that you don't have to go out and totally transform your wardrobe to get something that you're not currently living in.
Yeah, like it also stops you from just like having a wardrobe already and then deciding you're not going to wear any of it. You know, and I need to go buy a whole new wardrobe. And the whole idea of Alison's whole idea is about wearing things well, and like wearing things often and wearing things well, I suppose. So
yeah,
I like it.
So we've both got 3 words.
Do you want to go?
My 3 words, and this was I chose these before I knew that they had in like specific guidelines, and I've kind of shoehorned them in, but they kind of, I think they all kind of work for all of the words a little bit more. But my words are classic, vintage-ish, not full vintage, vintage-ish, and grounded.
I want to hear more because, I mean, in full disclosure, I already know how these link into Sarah's style, but I want you to explain them a bit more because I thought it was really interesting how you linked it to your style. I guess it's really hard for the first 2, but I do think that you dress more classic. Like, I think that is...
Yeah, and I feel like classic is the hardest, is the one that I'm less like convinced on, because I just want to, like, classic is, I feel like, is a bit boring or a bit non-specific, but I do really like things which are, you know, timeless. Like, I love a trench coat. I love like just things that I will with confidence be able to wear in 20 years and it will still be classic. So, and I think that just reflects like my appreciation of like longevity of garments and things that are really well made. And as someone who makes my own clothes, I have an even better appreciation for that.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I see that.
That was kind of how I picked classic. And then I picked vintage-ish because I really love, I think there are some eras in the 20th century which are really beautiful. And like, I particularly like late 30s, 40s, maybe early 50s. But I think, yeah, so that's definitely kind of my vintage-ish. But I don't want to go like full pin-up girl or full vintage, but I just want vintage-inspired cuts. I think like fit and flared outfits are really flattering on me. So that's kind of what I might gravitate as well. I just really like old things as well. So like being able to wear a vintage style top like this one is just like a really fun nod to something that I'm interested in and stuff like that. And then I chose grounded because I wanted a word that captured, I think utility is too like grungy, but I wanted a word that kind of is the opposite of frilly and fancy. And I also wanted a word, I find grounded is useful in a number of aspects because it kind of harks back to my use of kind of outdoor wear or utility wear day to day. And I like to feel sort of comfortable. Like I really like Doc Martens and feeling grounded.
Yeah, totally. Like it's funny because I wear Doc Martens a lot as well, but I think the difference with your style and my style is when it's for you, it's like about comfort and utility, and for me it's like that like edgy kind of way of wearing using the same garment very different ways. Totally.
And then the other kind of shoehorn for grounded, it reflects back to my colour choices,
which is so nice that it does that.
And like that's my favourite word, I think, of my three, is that I like the fact that I'm taking like grounded earthy colours and I'm pulling them in to inform on how I feel as well. Am I trying to shoehorn my words into the things I'm interested in or vice versa? I don't know, but
I think that's the point. I think it is meant to be a little bit so that it's achievable but also aspirational. So
but keeping that in mind and knowing what I like and like looking at kind of vintage-ish pattern companies and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're my three words. I'm really proud of them.
I am also very impressed with them. So
this is what
we lost the battle against the light. So
we'll continall continue to lose it.
It'll only get worse, so we're really sorry.
Let's talk about your words.
Okay. Quick! Alright, so my three words. My first word, I have to look down because I always forget them. So my first word is tailored. My second word is trendy or fashion forward. My third word is chic. Now, I found the words really hard to choose, and the reason is because a lot of what I want to emulate, like I know what my style looks like and what I want it to look like, but I find it very hard to find a word that encapsulates that. And I can give you examples within the categories, but I find it very hard to find a single word that doesn't
captures a mood or a...
Yeah, like the words are almost like too specific or something. But I'll go through them. So tailored... The other thing is I feel like there's a lot of crossover. So tailored, I chose because I feel like a lot of the clothing that I tend to wear or gravitate towards tends to be tailored. But at the same time, the reason that is because I feel good in tailored things.
Yeah.
So...
And you look good in them too.
Well, so for instance, one of my favorite thing to wear, if I had to pick one piece of clothing, would be a pair of well-fitting, high-waisted, tailored pants that, you know, are the perfect length, have the perfect pleats, have the perfect sort of like waist and like, you know, that's my dream. And then I just pair that with like literally any top. I don't care.
Yeah.
And
it suits you.
That's like my favorite thing. So that's why I picked tailored. And then trendy, I feel like this is probably the one that I'm not as 100% happy with, because when I say trendy, I'm sort of that friend who, whenever you go out somewhere, it's not that I'm overdressed, but I tend to wear something that's, I want to say like maybe a little bit more exaggerated or different. It's not so much that it follows like a current trend necessarily. Like I don't think that I'm someone who follows trends but I probably wear things that are a little bit more daring or out there than the average person.
I'm going to say this combination is amazing, but it's just like, it's not something I would ever do.
I think that's what it is. It's like I wear things that are just a bit more random.
Yeah. But in a very considered way.
Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, so we'll go with that. If I find a better word, then that's great. But at the moment, I know the feeling. I just don't have the word for it.
Yeah.
And then my final word is chic, because I just love feeling really just cool and chic. Like that's
like put together.
Yeah, put together, but in like a effortless sort of way. Yeah. Not in like a I'm really uptight sort of way. You know what I mean? So those are what I came up with. And I think it doesn't really change. I feel like my wardrobe already pretty well reflects that. But I do think that it like does kind of, it is something to keep in mind in terms of knitting, because my to knit list on Ravelry and saved on Instagram is out of control.
Yeah.
And so I think it's a good way of actually deciding what am I actually going to make versus something that I'm just appreciating on someone else.
That looks cool, but actually that doesn't fit with my...
Like that doesn't fit with the things that I actually tend to gravitate towards and wear, but it also doesn't fit with what I'm aspiring to have my closet look like either. So I'm just not going to take that step of buying the yarn or starting to make it.
Yeah, exactly. Makes sense. Yeah. Yeah, I think it's and I feel like all of this, the priority and the focus is on being really intentional with knitting, making things which you are going to love now and love down the track and not regret. I don't know. Yeah, totally. So I think it's worth the time and effort, and I'm really pleased that I've like put that time and effort in.
Yeah, same.
Not that it's time, I don't know. Like
it was, I don't know, Sarah and I were kind of talking about it, and it was a really nice chat to have with a friend, especially a friend who like has very different style and also really enjoys making things in fashion. And yeah, I want to encourage you guys that if you have like other friends who are sort of into the same sort of makey sort of hobbies, I really encourage you to talk to them about it, because it was a really nice conversation, and even just revisiting it again now has been really nice. So
I feel like talking about this as fashion, like I've never considered myself like a fashionable person, so I think instinctively I like push back from fashion as a term. Like, I'm like, it seems weird that I'm talking about fashion, but like,
do you prefer a word like style?
Boy, I don't identify with that either.
Well, then how do you describe what we're talking about?
No, this is weird. This is why I feel a bit uncomfortable. Like, I'm like, in what world should I be talking about these concepts?
I think you're not giving yourself enough credit.
This is just a me problem.
I think inherently, if you're someone who does a lot of sewing and knitting and stuff, like inherently you are going to be interested in how things look.
Okay, I would say personal style.
Okay.
We've
lost the battle.
I think we can't even pretend anymore that we're in this fight. Anyway, I would be curious, I don't know about you, I would be curious to hear like what other people's words are, because I think getting maybe a bigger lexicon of potential Alison Bornstein style 3 words to guide your personal style, I'd be really interested to see in the comments.
Totally. Or are we just delusional? Like, I'm interested to see if you agree with us, you know, and our thoughts, or whether you think that actually, like, you know, from the snippet that we see on YouTube, we actually think that you probably lean towards something else. Like, I'm really interested to see what other people's perceptions are as well, of sort of both us, like, you know, interested, but also sort of other words that you guys aspire to, or if you think that those words have changed for you over time as well.
Or equally, if you've had like instances where your like decision making or your personal style has changed as a result of either your colours or considering specific colours for you, or specific style guides, I'd be really curious to see how that like can kind of help develop your style.
If you've stuck with us this long, then you guys are the real deal. Thank you so much for watching. If you're still here and for bearing with us, we promise our future videos will be of better quality.
Do it at a normal time of day.
We'll still upload it, because I think, like, you know, it's a shame to not.
Thanks,
and
guys.
Hope you guys still appreciate it anyway. Thanks so much for joining us.
See ya. Bye.
Bye.